Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's tell you that Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has been discharged from the hospital following a successful surgical operation and rehabilitation. A statement from his doctors and the hospital revealed that he had a corrective surgery without any complications. He was admitted for a total of 7 days, during which he had physiotherapy and a smooth rehabilitation. Following the surgical operation, he's been discharged and is now recuperating. Our attention tonight is on the Labour Party, and the agenda of the party has become now a third force in the race for the nation's #1 seat. We shall be talking with the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, who is a two-term governor of Anambra State. He was the running mate to Mr. Atiku Abubakar on the ticket of the People's Democratic Party in 2019 presidential election. Mr. Peter Obi is live with us on the program from Lagos. Thank you so much, Mr. Obi, for joining us tonight. And I must say, perhaps we should begin the conversation tonight on the issue of security, especially the news is coming in about the 3 persons that have been released by terrorists who abducted them after the train attack in Kaduna. Give us a sense of what this means, and some of the stories that we are hearing also of the federal government asking Unity schools to be shut down because of security concerns. What are your thoughts about the issue of security? Because anyone who wants to be Nigeria's next president will be faced on the solutions to resolving this security problem. For you, what is at the heart of this problem, and how would you resolve it should you be elected president?
Well, Shehu, thank you once more for inviting me. Quite frankly, when I heard on the issue of Unity schools, especially around Abuja, the capital, it was very, very depressing. This security situation had become a complete worrisome situation for everybody concerned. I feel the federal government should do more. For me, I've said it repeatedly, that if I have the opportunity, we will deal with the situation head on. There's so many things that we need to put in place, which I might not be able to disclose openly in order to ensure that we secure the country. It is critical. It is the #1 thing that anybody needs to do if you want to still call this country a country that people should say they are proud of to be citizen of. First is that I talked about the issue of pulling people out of poverty. That the more you pull people out of poverty, the more you reduce the criminality. It is critical, it is important. As long as the economy continues to head south, like we're seeing today, your criminality will be rising. Further to that, you need to put in place other measures, ensure that you have proper manpower and proper equipment. There's so many other things that I've been able to learn, and if applied, we will be able to tackle it, and most importantly, the political will to deal with it decisively. But there are not things I intend to disclose in an open interview like this. But I assure you that it will be decisive and immediate.
Let me ask a follow-up on that. And my concern would be when you say that it will be decisive, a lot of things as far as buying equipment is concerned, procurement in that sense are not usually something that could be immediate. When you make policy decisions also, that has to do with lawmaking to reform the way and manner we fight security. For example, assuming you're looking at the area of state police, that will take some time. So those ones may not be immediate. But could it be an idea of allowing other countries that have successfully fought this kind of guerrilla warfare to help our nation? So some would say there is no harm in asking for help. Would you be seeking the help of the so-called bigger nation in terms of military manpower and the technical know-how in fighting this kind of terrorism?
We will do everything that is possible. Everything that is possible,
including getting other countries of the world to help us,
including you mentioned issue of state security. I've said it repeatedly that if I have the opportunity, every state will be responsible for her own security. I'll make sure that the governors are given the powers to secure their state. Even if we have federal police there, they will be responsible and reporting to the governor. Additionally, the state will be allowed to have their own security system if they need be. We must secure Nigeria. We will do every other thing that is possible, which I'm not ready to disclose here, but it is one of those things, as I go around learning what to do, security is on top of my list. And I assure you that what we're going to do will be decisive. Most importantly, I will do so hands-on.
Would you also include hiring mercenaries? Some governors in the northern region of the country have said, we could use the help of mercenaries. Do you think that this is a viable option?
What I want to disclose now and share, what I said is that I can assure you, I said every option will be on the table. But I'm not ready to disclose my options now because it's a security issue. I'm not there yet, but I assure you that it will be, like I said, decisive and immediate.
All right, then. Let's move to some other issue. We'll get to talk about, we'll mix things up. We'll talk about policy, we'll talk about governance, and we'll talk about politics as well. Let me ask you this. Vice President Atiku Abubakar said, you did not tell him before leaving the PDP. Is that true?
Yes, it's true. Let me tell you, Shehu, Vice President Atiku remains my respected elder brother. And what his comments is true. When I left the PDP, I did not tell him and other respected people in my life, including my family. There's a time in your life that you take a decision which you consider appropriate for your own future, that you just have to do it because you don't want people to talk you out of it. And this I did to the best interest of my future and the best interest of Nigeria. Recall that when I left PDP, I did say, I'd rather do the right thing and fail than do the wrong thing and succeed. And that's what I did. I took that decision in consideration that it does not in any way inconvenience or affect any other person except me.
So on a normal day, would you have, apart from the fact that you didn't want anybody to talk you out of your decision of moving away from the PDP, on a normal day, would you have spoken with him? Would you have seek his audience, perhaps ask for his permission or advice before leaving the PDP?
Not really. That's why respectfully, after 1 or 2 days taking that decision, I elucidated it in a written message to him saying I had to go because of the circumstances I found myself and where I found myself and what was happening to me and what I think is appropriate to do. And I know, knowing him, he respected my decision. And like I said, he remains my very respected elder brother.
Now, let's get some clarity in some of the things that you have done. There are accusations of how you got a ticket. Since you and I are speaking on this program for the first time after then, can you tell Nigerians and come clean to them about the process in which you got a ticket? Some people have raised a question mark about it. Perhaps some people even accuse you of buying your way through to get to the ticket. But I know the kind of person you are. You could clarify to us whether or not this is true.
So we have the freest primary in Labour. Remember, the frontliner in Labour Party was Professor Pat Utomi, who, before everybody, every delegate in that election, primary, resigned and said that he's stepping down since he has found that a younger person, more energetic, competent, has the capacity, is coming on board. It was an open primary, monitored by INEC, and the participation was free, fair, and credible. Everybody can tell you. And you know me. Of course, if you buy something or you paid money, there's no way you do money transaction in Nigeria that people wouldn't know. And I'm not one of those who will do that.
You know, I'm very sure you must have heard what the kind of the stories telling about you, that Obi will not pay anything. There are those even who said that one of the reasons that you left was that you were not ready to pay delegates. But those who said, no, that is hypocritical actually, because they are accusing you of actually paying some money. Did Obi pay anything? Because those who believe that Obi will not pay anything.
Well, I think we moved on. There's more critical issues in Nigeria now. I'm not a candidate. I've assured you I didn't pay anything to be where I am today. And I'm not a candidate, and I'm happy where I am. And we're not talking about, there's so many issues that are happening in the country today that we need to deal with.
Let's make reference also to what former Vice President Atiku Abubakar also said about you. He said it will be a miracle for you to win the presidential election. How would you react to this?
Well, so miracle is at the root of our faith. What strengthens our faith is miracle. For me, since I started this political journey, my achievements and records have all been miracle. They have all been miraculous. If you check, I ran for governor in a party that was less than 1 year old. When I started in 2003, I won the election. They declared somebody else. I went to court. Everybody said it's impossible. There's no way. It's never happened before. After 3 years, the court declared me the winner. I was sworn in. 6 months, I was impeached alongside Fayose and Darie. I went to court. Again, I became the first governor to come back from impeachment. So I was the first governor to win through the court, first to come back from impeachment. And then in 2007, About 1 year in office, INEC conducted the election, and Anyuba won and was sworn in as governor. I went to court again to seek the interpretation of our constitution that my tenure is 4 years. Everybody said it will never happen. Again, the Supreme Court declared me the winner, which is why you have staggered the election in various states today. So I became the first governor to seek interpretation of the constitution. On tenure of the governor, I became the first governor. In Anambra State, over a period of 40 years, from Jimwe days in old Anambra State, I was the first governor to serve 2 tenures. I can go on and on and on and tell you so many things that have happened in this my journey that one can say is a miracle. And I'm looking forward to the next miracle next year to complete the miraculous journey of my political life.
So again, Mr. Atiku Abubakar also said that your popularity is only on social media, that 90% of the northern voters are not on social media. Do you think that his position is a true picture of the state of Nigeria's politics, and how would this affect your chances?
Well, I agree with him with what he said. It's one of the problems we are going to solve after my miraculous emergence, to deal with the issue of educating those, if it's true that 90% that are not on social media, what you need is to, I was saying that I was going to invest in education. We need to educate them. We need to ensure that they equip them, because the population is mentioned is actually the teeming population we need. When I say the North, the vast land of the North is our nest oil, this is the population that I need to be able to turn that asset into production. They are the assets I need for the factories. Processing factories are going to be located in Kaduna and Kanu to be able to produce those agricultural products, to process them for export. So, yes, we'll deal with it, but I assure you that we're not just on social media. People are also listening to us, and they know we have something to offer. And I'm sure that's what he wants to do as well. These are people we all need to educate and help.
So one big question here is there was a huge wind of support beyond your cell, especially that of your party, towards the Osun governorship election. And Obedient were very vocal. I call it Obedient, these are your supporters. That is what they are being tapped. In and out of social media, you could hear that huge support for Peter Obi and the Labour Party. Only if that could materialize to the kind of vote your party could have garnered at that election. How come your party did not perform well in that election? That support did not materialize. Why?
So there was no huge support in Osun as we were going into that election. Let us be realistic. What you saying that people are obedient, you know, Osun election and Ekiti election is an election that have been planned months. I've been in the Labour Party less than 6 weeks. The candidates that emerged months before I even got involved. The elections were on then and everything. So there was no way that would have translated overnight. 2023 election is totally different. I remember election these days, people are now voting for candidates, for the persons involved. I had been to Ekiti, for example, before the election, and campaigned for the PDP candidate. I had been to Osun before, when I was the aspirant in PDP, and campaigned for the PDP candidate. So those elections cannot be used to compare for anything. And there was, yes, I went there because we are participating in that election, and in fulfillment of our obligation, we were there. But to say that it would have, my popularity would have translated overnight would have been not fair to us.
So, again, maybe I should leave Atiku Abubakar out, but he made some it does look like there were a lot on his mind to say about you leaving the PDP, and perhaps maybe he had in mind for you to be his running mate. That may not happen again. But is there a possibility of working with him if the chance arises? For those who say this election might in fact go into a runoff, if there is a possibility to align forces with Atiku Abubakar, would you take that chance?
So nobody goes into a match thinking of what will happen at the end of. Everybody's going there to win. I'm going into this contest to win. I'm going into the contest to be the next president of Nigeria. So thinking about what will happen is, I don't know how, nobody considers that into a match when you're saying it might be a draw. You're going into it to win. I'm going into this election to win, and then I think I have all it takes to win.
Now, for someone who has worked with Atiku Abubakar, and you perhaps you have an idea of Bola Tinubu, you have an idea of Kwankwan, so you've been in the same party before, and a few other Omoyele Sowore and a few others like that. You are in the race this time around in your name as a principal. You are not. You do not have a principal. You are your own principal now. What is your instinct telling you that Peter Obi might be the next president of Nigeria? If that is what your mind is telling you, you think that you have what it takes to beat an Atiku Abubakar or Bola Tinubu at the general elections?
Well, for me, I wish I will not even do well or comment about what they are thinking. My concentration is how to solve the problem of Nigeria, how to start pulling Nigeria out of the problems, pulling Nigerians out of poverty, creating jobs for our teeming youths who are desirous of being part of changing the world, not thinking about what other people are thinking. They have what they want to do for Nigeria. But my commitment is how do we start turning around this country. There's so many issues now that we're into. Say, as you can see, we're collapsing by the day. Do you know what it means to shut down government-owned school in the capital? That means we're not safe anywhere any longer. This should be a preoccupation of those of us who are contesting, not about other issues.
Mr. Peter Obi, we need to take a breather now. We need to take a traditional break on the program. But when we come back, we'll try to learn from your experience what you took out of Egypt when you took the tour to learn about the electricity transformation. Of course, we'll also try to understand what is on your mind when you heard about the debt servicing figures in the 2022 budget. What would you do differently? What figures are you projecting to take the GDP, the interest rates, the inflation? How would you drive all of these indices, perhaps in a positive way, should you be elected president? These are some of the issues we'd like to take you on. The conversation with Mr. Peter Obi continuing. His game plan ahead of the 2023 election. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back.
of the reasons why I started Munira. I wanted to make people feel good about what they were. I lost my dad in 2008.
The day when the man died, I don't want to remember. School fees can't dey hard us. Things no can't go for me too.
My journey with MTN started in 2014. I remember the night I told my mom I had gotten the scholarship. It was midnight. I went to the room, I woke her up and I said, I've gotten a scholarship.
So happy. Neighbor week.
The tagline for the YEDP program was Turn It Up. The funding has helped me turn my dream on. My ambition is to be successful, impact lives, and generally just make people happy.
And the people of Akamata community got into a frenzy of argument over a news of their shops being locked. I heard it was the community chairman that locked up their shops. I am going to tell all my friends online. This is what I heard. And I'm sure it is true. I'm just so sure about it.
How sure are you? Have you verified this news? You better be careful as not to spread fake news in this community. It can easily get these people triggered.
Man, relax. This kind of news cannot be fake. It can never be fake.
Okoronko, do not spread fake news, please.
Every news stands the chance of being fake. Before you share that news, have you considered the source? Also check the date and be careful to check the bias. Are there supporting sources from other credible news media? Finally, if you cannot independently verify the news, don't share it. This message is brought to you by the Center for Democracy and Development with support from the UK government.
Citygate Homes remains one of the most reliable platforms that assist you in making informed decisions in purchasing properties or development, especially when quality matters most. At Citygate, we don't just build homes, we build memories. We are the quintessence of luxury, affordability, and we guarantee quality with exceptional amenities. It's true value for money at convenient locations across cities all over the nation. We are a reliable plug for infrastructure, development, and security architecture at all times. Imagine it, and we would deliver innovative designs that are forward-thinking. For further inquiries, call 0808-0100-084 or 0813-4303-400. We are Citygate. Reliability is our identity. Let's make your dreams come true.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us right here on the program. Our conversation with Mr. Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, continues. Mr. Peter Obi is with us live from Lagos. Thank you so much, Mr. Obi, for your time tonight. I think we need to go into some critical issues now, because there are expectations, huge expectations on anyone who wants to be Nigeria's next president. Nigerians are expecting them to get on the ground and solve the problems. I mean, one of the major issues is that of unity. What is your strategy for unifying a divided country as Nigeria if you were elected president?
Well, so the first, thank you very much. It is a very critical and problem that needs, again, hands-on, uniting every part of Nigeria. The first thing, when you want to talk about unity, you talk about justice, fairness, inclusiveness. I will ensure that every part of Nigeria is included. There's justice in the land, things that are done fairly. We will consult, we will negotiate, we will make sure that nobody is left behind. Where we need to beg, where we need to appeal, we will do so. I will start by touring every part of Nigeria, ensuring that all of them understand what we are doing, understand, oppose. We have to carry everybody along. When you do that, you start showing care. Every part have to simultaneously, consulted, dealt with, included in whatever we're doing.
Oh, great. So that takes me to the fact that there are factors that divide this country. When the issue of religion is brought up, the issue of ethnicity is brought up. Some of this diversity, we're supposed to use it to unite the country, but it keeps causing division. And I'd like to get your thoughts and your comment on the clerics or the Christian leaders who are said to have attended the unveiling of Vice President.
Well, so once you start doing the right thing, the issue of ethnicity and the issue of religion takes a backseat. Those things surface when you're not doing the right thing. I've asked a question, show me anywhere in Nigeria where the Christians buy bread cheaper or the Muslims buy bread cheaper. Is there any part of the north where there's uninterrupted electricity? Or if today you can't travel from Abuja to Kaduna, or by road, by air, or by train, is it because a southerner or anybody is the president? Is Katsina safer than Ogun State? So that issue, for me, does not arise. If you start doing the right things, I've not seen any road that has started like Lagos Ibadan Road, and they say only people who pass there are Christians. So that issue, if you start doing the right thing, they will take a back seat. On the issue of the bishops that attended the unveiling of the vice president, quite frankly, I do not think, in the first place, I don't think they're supposed to be there. I don't see why. It wasn't a religious thing. It wasn't anything to do with church. So even the bishop's attendance is suspicious and worrisome. I don't know why the bishops should be where we unveil this thing. They should be in the church praying. So seeing them there is actually something of, we are first turning a serious political issue into a theater. For example, I don't know why they should be there in the first place. Atiku unveiled his vice president in PDP headquarters. I did the same thing. We didn't even need to have a reverend there, talk lots of bishops. Bishops should be in the church praying for the country and allow us. It's a very serious matter. So they are coming there in the first place. For me, it's turning a dangerous situation into a dangerous situation of the whole exercise.
Let's go into the issue of electricity, because I'd like to pick several other issues that I've prepared to ask you tonight. The issue of electricity is one thing that, aside security, perhaps the second most important thing that Nigerians think that needs to be resolved. You went to Egypt, and your agenda, as you said, was to look at what Egypt did differently in terms of electricity. So what did you learn on that trip? And perhaps, what is the take home for you? And if you were elected, how do you hope to resolve the electricity problem in Nigeria? How long can it take you?
First and foremost, let me start by referring you to go and read both what the Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore said and the ruler of Dubai. Ruler of Dubai, their own being recent, he said what he does is to learn from other countries what they're doing right and bring it back to Dubai and do it right. So for me, I go to where I think people have done the right things to learn. Egypt, Vietnam, and India have deployed the fastest electricity program in the past 5 years. Egypt moved their power generation, transmission and distribution from about 20,000 to over 55,000 today, within 5 years. So for me, in a country like ours of 200 million people, generating only about 4,000, when the second biggest in terms of economy in Africa, being South Africa, generating over 50,000, and Egypt generating over 50,000. The experience of Egypt, I decided to go and learn. I visited the power plant to see what they were able to do within that 5 years. I visited the power plant, visited the company that executed the project, had a very useful meeting with the CEO of the company, visited the power holding company of Egypt, and other agencies that are involved to learn what they did, as well as visited the financiers of the project. What they were able to do, all I can tell you, can easily happen here. And my commitment is that Nigeria can be able to generate, transmit, and distribute 15,000 megawatts within a 4-year period of a government. Because in Egypt, their target was 5 years, but the way the plans were executed, they were achieved under 3 years. But it has to be a holistic thing with everybody hands-on and followed religiously. It was an easy thing, and I spoke to everybody, like I said, from the construction company to the power holding company to the financiers and everything. It can be done here, and it is one of the things that I'm totally committed to making a difference of. And it is critical. You can't talk about production without talking about power. It is ensured that for every 1,000 megawatts of electricity you're able to produce, you'll probably be adding almost 1% to your GDP. So it is critical, 1% growth. So it is critical for us to do that as aggressively as possible. Nigeria today, with our population, and if we're going to make any meaningful step in being productive, requires at least 30,000 megawatts of electricity. It would be difficult But I assure you that we will achieve half of that as quickly as possible.
Now, let me jump. We have a few issues that we need to deal with quickly before our time expires. Now, let me jump quickly to the issue of education and this university strike. This has been a recurring decima in our country, government after government, and this keep happening. What would you do differently to fix education sector in Nigeria, and hoping that university lecturers will go on strike, or even hospital doctors will no longer go on strike? How do we hope to end this kind of situation in our country, especially in the education sector?
When you talk about the education, the most critical aspect is the basic education. There's also strikes in various levels of basic education. For us as a country, it is critical, consider we have over 15 million out of school children. We need to decisively invest in education. Our investment in education now is low, and even that level that we have today are not being properly deployed across the states. So you need to do more aggressively in terms of ensuring that even the little budget gets properly to its destination. You can use, we use examples of what we've been able to do while I was in Anambra State, mix with other ideas and do so at national level. And we're able to turn around education, the basic education. On the tertiary institution is to sit down with the bodies that are involved with it, find a solution that is a win-win for government and everybody. And when you have an agreement, try to do everything possible to fulfill it. The present ringing situation we have is where we have a situation where we had an agreement since 2009 that the government did not bother to do anything about. There was a strike within the universities while I was the governor. There was a strike. What I did was to sit down with the management of our state university, agree a win-win situation, which we signed an agreement on, and are implementing it religiously. That is why today, one of the universities that call it government-owned universities that are open and functional is Anambra State University. It was because of my agreement with them while I was governor when there was strike. I also pleaded with them. One of the worst things you can do is not to allow schools, especially higher institutions, to go on seamlessly as expected. Today, Nigerian human capital is 152 over 158. Our tertiary school intake is 9%, when the global average is 38%. In the Western world, it's over 50%. But global average is 38%, and we are 9%. So we're not even up to 1/4 of the global average, and even that 9% is suffering. There's issues that needs to be looked into. It is unacceptable that a university professor should earn less than a counselor. It doesn't make sense. They've been seen
Mr. Obi, yeah, I have just a few minutes left on the program. So let me take about two short issues with you. The first being on the issue of security, because this issue of banditry and in the Northwest is affecting even the schools. Now, if you can appeal to the bandits and insurgents who are terrorizing our country, what would you be telling them?
Well, like I told you about the issue of security, first I will deal with it in sense that I have also been able to see some of the kidnappers, the bandits and everything, and some of them I've been able to meet when I visited prisons where issue of unemployment, they had nothing to do. So when we provide a means of livelihood for some of them, support people to be meaningfully engaged, we will deal with the remaining decisively as we deal with every other criminal. We're not going to waste time. I can assure you of that. At this stage, they're not being decisively dealt with.
All right, two quick issues, and I'd like if you can use 30 seconds for each. I caught something that you said, which got my attention. You said that you told people in Aba that if you become president, Aba and Port Harcourt will be one town in 2 to 3 years. What do you mean by that? Quickly, a quick one.
Very simple thing. I just said to them, Aba and Port Harcourt will be one town. Said that I'm going to make sure that there's a road, there's a facility that connects these two towns, because we can't talk about turning around our productive sector, which is going to be driven by export. Vietnam and Bangladesh are doing clothing of 30-something billion export annually, which is twice what we earn from oil. Vietnam is doing footwear to something $1 billion, which is more than what we earn in oil. And I said, Aba is already known for production of this clothing, footwear and everything. And I said, Port Harcourt is a seaport. So I would turn Port Harcourt into a major export seaport and transshipment port, and Aba will be the production site. These are two separate states, but I said there will be one. Like you have today, New York and New Jersey. There's no difference, but there's two different states. They will remain two different states in two different locations. However, there will be one. You can't drive from Port Harcourt to Aba today. Something that's supposed to take about 25 minutes takes you 3 hours. So I said, when I'm president, all these things will be opened up. Because what we need today is to make the country productive and for export. Our export should not be less than $250 billion in the near future.
We need to close now, Mr. Obi, and I would have loved to go into the debt issue and what do we do, but that is going to be for another day. But this is very important for me because this also caught my attention, and it's what you are doing. It looks like you're focusing on the youths. Is this deliberate? And what are your plans for the youth? There's a huge unemployment situation within the youth population in Nigeria. We just have 20 seconds to go.
Very deliberate, because the youth are our greatest assets. This country has enormous energy and talent within the youth that we need to exploit to turn around the country. Look at what just happened in this sporting issue where Toby, Amusan, and Ese Brume. Look at what they've just, look at how they're making the country proud, celebrating their talent. And this is what we have everywhere. If you go into American NBA, out of 150 players, almost 100 are Nigerians. These youths are so talented that they are the way you need to focus to unleash their talent and productive energy to turn around the country. When I talk about production, the greatest assets for this production I'm preaching every day is the youth. And I want to invest in them. All they want is access to training, access to capital. And I know where to get it for them. And I'll be able to turn them around.
Okay.
for export.
Mr. Obi, we are totally out of time. I mean, I would have asked some other specific questions, but a lot to touch, but little time. But we're hoping that we'll get you again on the program. But sincere thanks for coming on. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi. Thank you so
Sure,
much.
but we're not talking about the death, because it's worrisome.
Sure, yeah. Thank you so much. That's our show, everyone. Bye for now.
Looking at the indicators for next year, the macroeconomic environment requires economic liberalization for sustainable private capital growth in 2023. I believe that will be a strategic macroeconomic tool to leapfrog Africa's economy from being import dependent on product it can produce to be a self-sustaining $1 trillion economy, beyond, low-end commodity export to high-end product lines and what I call knowledge-based earnings. So this leads, to my assertion as an entrepreneur and industrialist of the fifth era of industrial revolution, where digital transformation and technology boom have taken artificial intelligence to record high in terms of economy and all that. One key engine that we need in 2023 is economic liberalization as a phenomenal tool to, activate private capital development. So we can pivot the economy from running around multi-billion-dollar economy GDP to a $1 trillion economic league to have a strong voice. So you see, if you look at the global economic trend and its impact on the continent of Africa, which only accounts for about 3% of global trade, and with a 7% trade deficit, it is, in terms of trade, it's difficult to fathom the assertion that a struggling economy with negative trade balance of about 19.3% that is also exposed to surging global inflationary turmoil due to high import dependency on what it can produce. The such economy can survive a hike in interest rate as the best monetary policy response to address surge of inflation. This is because the current inflation that we're dealing with, which I call imported inflation,